Hello everyone, my name is Ty Wilson. I'm a Georgia workers' compensation attorney practicing law in the state of Georgia. And our video topic for today is 10 mistakes to avoid when you are filing a Georgia workers' compensation claim. And so what we're going to do, our goal here is to give you information that you can use if you're considering filing a workers' compensation claim, or if you're in a workers' compensation claim, things that you want to avoid so that they don't destroy or mess up your workers' compensation claim. It's always recommended, if you have a claim or you have questions about a claim specifically, that you should reach out to a Georgia workers' compensation attorney and find out what might be in your best interest, specifically based upon the facts or a scenario that you're dealing with. So let's get into it. Number one, failure to report the injury immediately. In Georgia, there is what is called a notice provision. So it's important that you notify your employer, your boss, your supervisor, whoever's in charge, and say, look, I was injured on the job, I hurt myself, I need medical care. We do have people who have told their employer, I was hurt, or they got seriously hurt, knocked out, and an ambulance came to work and took them off, and hey, the employer never gave me any medical care after that. Well, one, they may have known, that's arguable, that you were hurt because of being knocked out at work. But the reality is they don't know if you were unconscious for something that happened at work, or if you naturally had some sort of situation like a heart attack or something where you just passed out, maybe a pre-existing condition. So as the injured worker, you are your best advocate. And as your best advocate, it's important that you notify your supervisor, employer, boss, I've been injured on the job and I need medical care for my injury. Number two, not seeking medical attention immediately. So it's important that when you get hurt, a lot of times you feel some soreness and you're thinking, well, I can probably work through this. I've been sore before. I've had issues like this before. I'll just work through it. But it doesn't seem to go away. It's very important that you at least get checked out, tell the employer, hey, this is what's happened. And this really applies more so in what we'd call a cumulative injury, where maybe you're moving your arm the same way, doing some sort of motion, and you feel pain, but it wasn't something where you heard a pop or anything like that. Repetitive injury would also be something that this would be considered. And so once it gets sore, you may want to reach out, get to a clinic, get it checked out, make sure there's not something that's torn and it becomes something bigger later. Because if you wait too long, as I said earlier, there is a notice provision in Georgia that you must notify your employer within 30 days of your injury in order to let them investigate and see if they can do something to prevent further injury from occurring. Number three, not documenting your work injury properly. So what do we mean by that? Well, if you look at our video on WC1, we explain that is what is called a first report of injury in Georgia. And we explain that it's important and critical to tell the employer everything from head to toe, everything that is injured and every body part that feels different. Sometimes it might just feel different, but you've got one injury that's more painful than the other. You want to notify them of all of them. Hopefully everything gets better, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to say, I fell, hit my arm, my neck hurts, so I'm going to go with my neck and we'll just worry about the arm later. Well, the reality is there is no worrying about the arm later if that's not on that WC1 or it's not reported early that there's something also wrong with your elbow. There's a very high probability that the workers' compensation insurance carrier will deny that claim and you will be in for a fight, possibly being forced into litigation in a workers' compensation claim just to obtain medical care for your injury. Always good suggestion to speak with a Georgia workers' compensation attorney and verify that. Number four, not keeping medical records of your treatment. And so what do we mean by that? Really, I'm more focusing on work status reports. A lot of times the injured worker will call our office and say, look, I've been out of work and I haven't received checks, and now all of a sudden I got a bill for the medical care, and can you help me? Well, in order to qualify for those checks, you have to show that you were either out of work completely or on light duty and your employer could not accommodate the light duty. So how do you prove that? Well, it's called a work status report. If every time you go to a doctor after a work injury, you need a work status report that says, one, you're either out of work completely, which would arguably entitle you to weekly income benefits after 7 days of being out of work completely, or two, that you are at light duty. Now, there's another step with the light duty, and that is that the employer cannot accommodate your light duty restrictions. If the employer doesn't know you're at light duty, then you either return back to work full duty and take the possibility of straining that injury, or you're able to work full duty and your injury's not affected as a result of that. So the main thing with this one is get your work statuses after every medical visit. That does not include physical therapy. What we're talking about here is your authorized treating physician, whether it be an orthopedic or if it is a clinic, any type of doctor that you're getting to see that's going to look at your injuries and going to tell you, hey, I think you can work. I don't think you can work. I think we need to do injections. I think we need to consider this. I think we need to consider that. And so along the same lines, if they do refer you to physical therapy, you want something in writing that shows that. That's going to be the fastest way to get medical care and treatment moving forward. Workers' comp is famous for slowly approving things and denying things. However, to find out if they're going to deny or approve something, get them the paperwork and say, here is the referral for physical therapy. Will you approve it or will you not? So this also involves keeping and maintaining medical records and work status reports. You want to keep your own folder. Again, you want to be your best advocate, meaning you want to have all that paperwork in order. Does that mean having office notes for every visit? Well, you can get that from time to time. You don't need that after every visit, but what you do need is the work status report. So keep that in mind. Number 5, not following doctor's orders. If a doctor says, hey, no lifting more than 5 pounds, and you go back to work full duty, don't share that with your employer. Next thing you know, you lift and injure yourself further. Well, some of that is for you to blame. So what you want to do is carry your work restrictions around with you. And by carrying those work restrictions around, then if the employer says, hey, go lift that 50-pound bag of concrete, and you have lifting restrictions of 10 pounds, well, you can pull out your restrictions and say, I'm sorry, boss, but I'm not able to do that per doctor's orders. Then the employer has an opportunity to say, okay, I'll get somebody else to do this. Or, you know what? We have heavy duty here. I know you're on light duty. I'm going to send you home. If they do, what they're saying, arguably, is I can no longer accommodate your light duty restrictions. You may be entitled to weekly income benefits, and you will want to speak with the Georgia Workers' Compensation attorney as quickly as possible. Number 6, not reporting pre-existing conditions. There are a lot of claims. Workers' comp, you do not have to be the picture of perfect health, an 18-year-old athlete, Olympic athlete. Everybody has and brings with them wear and tear from prior jobs, possibly prior injuries. And so if you have a prior injury, it is important that you share that with the doctors. If the employer asks, sometimes they'll ask in an application, it is important that you are honest. If you are not honest in that application and you fill out the paperwork saying, nope, never hurt my back, even though you had back surgery from a prior work injury, and you re-injure yourself, the employer is arguably not responsible to take care of your injury. You do not want to set yourself up for failure, so you want to be honest. You want to make sure that you let them know of any pre-existing conditions that are asked in an application, and then of course you want to share that with your medical doctors. Number 7, not seeking legal advice. There are times when your claim may be in a pinch. You need to speak. If you don't know which way to go or what to do, you should reach out to a Georgia Workers' Compensation attorney. We spend a lot of time on the phone with potential clients, most of which we do not represent, but they ask us specific questions based upon their scenario. We've seen a lot of those similar situations, and we're able to counsel them and say, what might be in your best interest is if you consider this. And then either they move forward or they say, you know what? We would feel more comfortable if you would represent us, and then we move forward that way. And so important that you speak to a lawyer before you make the decisions. Once you've made the decisions, there are some decisions that you cannot back out of. So keep that in mind. Number 8, prior inconsistent statements. Whenever you're originally injured on the job, the employer may call you in to complete a first report of injury. And if you incorrectly make a statement about how you got injured, or you didn't want to throw anybody under the bus, you didn't want to implicate anyone else, you were trying just to report the injury, but you left some important details out, that could have a negative effect on your claim moving forward. So keep that in mind. It's important that you're honest. It's important that if you have questions, reach out to that Georgia workers' compensation attorney, find out what would be in your best interest. But if you lie, that can be used against you and can ultimately get your claim denied because you have no credibility. In Georgia workers' compensation claims, really the only thing the claimant has going for them is credibility. So it is important that you are honest and you are forthright. If you have any questions, always talk to a Georgia workers' compensation attorney. Number 9, ignoring deadlines. Okay, so you decided you're going to handle this on your own. You file a hearing with the board. Okay, you can do that. The opposing party or the insurance company hires an attorney. Well, they ask for a discovery. They send you a big packet of questions and documents that they're asking you to produce. And you just say, well, I'm not going to do any of that. You throw it over to the side. There are deadlines to discovery. If you do not respond to discovery timely, the other party can make a motion to the court to compel you to do the discovery. And that would include depositions, interrogatories, requests for production of documents, requests for admissions, and possibly even require you to show up at a medical appointment. And so you do not want to ignore potential deadlines. If you have questions about what might be a deadline for you, again, reach out to a Georgia workers' compensation attorney. They have walked through this minefield before. They can lead you through and navigate you to what you must do and determine, well, maybe you need an attorney at that point. Maybe you dove in to the deep end and you need help to get out of it. So consider that. And then last but not least, settling your claim too quickly. Often settlement is optional for both parties. That means the insurance company and the injured worker. Now, just because the insurance company wants to settle your case does not mean it's a good time to settle your case. We received a call yesterday. Someone had a back injury. They needed surgery. They did not want surgery right now, yet the insurance company wants to settle with them. I bet they do. They want to settle with them for the reason that that person will probably need a back surgery, whether they do it through workers' comp or not. And then at that point, if they've settled the case, workers' comp won't be responsible. If they don't settle the case and they get the back surgery, well, workers' comp is responsible. And not only that, sometimes where there's one surgery, there can be two. Not in all cases. It depends on the severity of the back injury. However, in this particular case, upon talking to the potential client, they did advise that there is a possibility for a much serious surgery down the road, and the doctors felt like surgery was going to be inevitable if they kept doing that same type of heavy work. And so that brought on a lot of questions. They were asking, should we settle? And the important thing you need to know, if you settle a workers' compensation claim, is you are giving up future medical care and future weekly checks, all for a lump sum. If that lump sum is a number that you're okay with, okay, maybe you want to settle. If that lump sum is not, and you got a possibility of a surgery, you need to know workers' comp will not pay you what you have to pay for a surgery. They pay what's called a fee schedule. So there's a discounted rate for that insurance company to pay that doctor, to pay the hospital, to pay the anesthesiologist and the surgeon. And so when you settle a case, that same doctor, same hospital, same surgeon, they may not accept that lower reduced fee schedule payment. Something to keep in mind if you're considering settling. Always reach out to a Georgia workers' compensation attorney, pick their mind, get them questions. If you have any questions about a workers' compensation claim that you have, feel free to contact us with any of the information on the screen or in the notes section of this video. We hope this has been helpful. We will see you on the next video. Thank you. If you or a loved one has been injured on the job and have questions about what is going on with your claim, feel free to give us a call or reach out. We'll be happy to answer any question we can to help you move along with the claim. Thank you.